Welcome to the podcast. I am Shane Barker, your host of Shane Barker's Marketing Madness Podcast. Welcome to this podcast on content marketing best practices. We'll be talking about the best content marketing practices that marketers should follow to boost their campaign results. With me today, I have the author of 2 acclaimed content marketing books and the founder and CEO of Vertical Measures, Arnie Kuenn. He is a thought leadership in the realm of content marketing strategy and conducts numerous conferences, workshops, and seminars globally. Listen as he advises young marketers on how to come up with content ideas that can potentially go viral. By the end of the podcast, you'll learn how to maximize the potential of your content marketing initiatives. It is definitely worth your time. So hey guys, what's going on? It's Shane Barker here with Arnie Kuenn today, the CEO of Vertical Measures. Arnie, thank you so much for taking the time today. I really do appreciate it.
Oh, thanks, Shane. I'm happy to join.
Yeah, absolutely. So why don't you tell the audience, just give us a little bit about your background. I mean, I know that, like I was telling you earlier before you started this, that I don't even know where to start with you because there's a lot of things that we have parallels with, but you've done so many different things. And I was telling you, we only have an hour. Like, I feel like this should probably be a 2 or 3 day workshop or seminar on like Arnie's life and what's happened and how he got to the point where he's at today. But tell us a little bit about yourself, like where you grew up and kind of give us a little background.
Well, I was born in Buffalo and at the age of 3 upgraded to Cleveland, but I got married and in my 20s moved to Phoenix, Arizona, sunny Phoenix, Arizona. I don't know if you can see it. It's been raining for 2 straight days here and been here ever since and absolutely love it.
Phoenix doesn't know how to handle that when it comes to rain.
Right.
I know people lose their mind. I've been in Phoenix and when they rain, it's kind of like the same thing here in Sacramento. We get rain, but when it rains, people lose they don't know how to handle it. It's like you drove in rain last year. It's not like it's snow. It's like you just drive a little slower, but.
Well, and actually I don't know if you can see well enough behind me, but there's a parking lot and below it is a 1-level parking garage. I went down there, I had to drive an SUV. I went down there this morning. I could not even get to my spot because we don't worry about drainage here.
Flooded.
My parking spot was about a foot deep of water. So
yeah, when it rains out there, it rains hard. Like it's an aggressive.
Yep. But I think the whole country at this point is we have nothing to complain about.
Yeah, that's true. That's absolutely true. Absolutely true.
Actually, not usually in Arizona, we never complain about this. I mean, we want the rain and we want the snow, which the north is getting a lot of snow, so it's fine with us.
Definitely need it. So anyways, go ahead. So sorry about that. I was go a little bit about your background here.
Well, anyway, grew up there, but moved to Phoenix for my whole adult life. Lived here 30 some years, and I don't know, business-wise, this is my 3rd different business. We started Vertical Measures. Formally, we incorporated in 2006. I think we got serious about it in 2008 when I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do and finally decided to rent some office space and form the agent, really went and hired somebody. And that's kind of, to me, the official start. And that was a little over 10 years ago.
Wow, that's crazy. And your wife's also part of the organization, correct?
Yep, she does our HR and our payroll. And what happened was I had another company and we sold it. And I know you have a question about this patent if that comes up, but that was a company that we went and patented some technology and thought we were going to become internet billionaires. And then, of course, the bubble burst, if you might remember, if you're old enough.
I am.
So that was maybe 2002, 2003. We kept the business going for a little while, ended up selling it to Nielsen, actually. Yeah. And so I became, through that whole process, we were doing a lot online, and I kind of became the internet guy with my friends and family and all that. And I had a few clients and moved out of the office, shut down the office we had, and I moved home. And my wife and I was just doing some consulting, and she was helping me with the books because I've never been able to do bookkeeping very well and all that. And as the business grew, she stayed with it and now runs that and that piece of the business.
That's awesome. So she's the brains. That's what I'm. I'm translating because my wife does the same thing. She helps me with my books.
Yeah.
She helps. And I'm like, no, actually, she's the one that runs things. Like I'm not going to say I'm the pretty face that runs things. I'm just where people see, right? They see me more than they see my wife. But really, at the end of the day, she's the thing that keeps the glue together. So I get that.
I couldn't have gotten this far without, because I don't do that well. So
yeah. See, that's you and I are the same. I'm not good. We were joking about this on one of the other podcasts we did. I'm not really good with numbers. Like I was like in accounting. I'm like, oh, this is so difficult. And I'll lie and say, oh, I've been doing this for 3 years when I've been doing it for 10 years. I'm always this. For me, there's just the timeline thing is just always skewed. I feel like my brother's like probably 12 years old when he's 35 and just got married and had a kid. So it's my timelines are always pretty skewed when it comes to that stuff. So that's awesome that you and your wife work together like that. I mean, like I said, that's always, that can be awesome. You've been married for how long? You've been
Well, we've been married 37 years. How about that?
You're a soldier. You are an absolute soldier. 37 years.
Yeah. Don't ask any more personal questions.
Okay. Yeah, I know. I was like, man, we got all kinds of stuff. This guy's 37 years. I feel like I've got the oracle of relationships. I feel like we should skip content and go straight into relationships. Well, that'll be a whole nother podcast. I think we'll stick with content today. So cool. So give us like an interesting fact about when you were growing up. I mean, what is like something that nobody would know about you that you think, okay, most people didn't do this or deal with this, have this, or got a few of those, huh?
Well, and many I won't talk about to this day. Yeah. Well, as if anybody's doing any math, you can figure out I grew up in the 70s, which I think was an awesome period of time to grow up. Music was awesome.
Yeah.
But, and the town I grew up in was a small, we used to kind of get teased that it was like the Norman Rockwell kind of town. And they called us the Hicks, but we didn't know any better. We just thought it was a cool little town. Yeah. And now it has actually become a historical place. I go back to visit and it's like these buildings a couple of them are museums, so, which is a weird feeling. But it was just this quaint little town in Ohio, outside Cleveland, but in Ohio.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's awesome. So where you grew up is now a museum. That's
yeah.
And the cool part is that you can actually remember the music from the 70s. Because I know judging from some people that I've talked to, they're like, I think the music was good. It was kind of a long 10 years. It was a little bit of a blur for whatever reason. Right? I'm not sure why that would have been. But the 70s, yeah, I was born mid 70s. So that was.
Oh, were you? Yeah.
I was, yeah. I tell you, man, I obviously grew up in the 80s and 90s, but it was fun, man. I mean, it was always a fun time. My mom and dad, they were California hippies.
Yeah.
That was, they were big thing was, I remember listening to like hard and just all the different types of music. There was just such great music back then. I feel I'm getting to a point now where I feel like I'm getting old in the sense that all the music, any new music that's on the radio just drives me nuts. Like whatever it is, like I've hit that point, like, oh, it's just not like the old music that we listened to. And I remember my mom saying that and I was like, oh, she's so old, gosh. And now here I am. I'm the same person that's going, oh, my son's like, oh, I love this song. And I'm like, oh my God, it's so annoying. How do you listen to that? And I'm like, oh, there we go. I just transitioned.
Right. You just did it. Right.
Yeah. I'll lose my hearing and then lose my hair. This is awesome. I can't wait. This getting old thing is going to rock.
Right. Yeah.
Well, that's cool. And then what college you went to? Went to Kent State, I think?
Went to Kent State. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Which outside Cleveland, if everybody knows. And usually I get asked, was that during the riots, if you remember the riots? And no, it wasn't. I'm not that old.
Wasn't that Vietnam? Is that when they had the riots?
Yeah, they were protesting against Vietnam. Yeah, and that's when the National Guard ended up shooting 4 students. And there's a famous song from Crosby, Stills and Nash, Born in Ohio.
Yeah.
Yeah, so older people usually ask me that question.
Yeah, that's.
I remember my mother being horrified that I was going to go to Kent State because
where all the students died.
There was these riots. Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. And can you imagine now? I mean, it's like with the media, how the media flows and things that happen, it can be, and I'm not saying obviously 4 students dying is a big deal, but it's crazy. Like when I'll give you an example, I was in Charlotte for the riots, not for the riots. I was just happened to be in Charlotte in a consulting project. And I remember my mom and the media here in Sacramento in California was like, oh my God, like people are dying. And they're like, and I'm like, I'm in the middle of the streets right now. Like, it's not that crazy. Now,
right.
But it's just kind of funny how the media, can take stuff and kind of takes it to the next level sometimes. And I was like, no, it's really not that. Now, I did end up going home because, there was some stuff that happened. So I didn't want to be necessarily a part of it. It was just crazy being in the middle of it and helicopters and all that fun stuff.
Yeah,
anyway,
exactly. Yeah.
Good stuff, the fun stuff. So cool. So how did you get into content marketing? I also, hold on, before we talk about that. So I did something, something about Icon. Did you work at Icon?
Yes, amazingly. Most of the people who even work here, they're not quite 30. They don't have any idea what this Icon thing is. But the first company I ever had during the 90s, I did end up selling it to Icon Office Solutions, which is exactly what you said. And I remember when we had a technical training company. So we were actually one of the first, we think we were the first Microsoft certified training company in the country. We worked a lot with Microsoft. In fact, Bill Gates knew us, and I actually used to email with him, and he would actually answer my emails back then, which is kind of amazing.
I know.
But we had and it turned into a good-sized technical training company, and Icon was primarily known as a printing company, copier company, and they wanted to get into this whole internet and technology thing that was starting to happen. So they went around and bought a lot of technical training companies like ours and software development companies and just anything they thought was going to make them hip and cool and relevant. And within about I would say 3 years, they sold almost every one of those assets back to the original owners or the people who are now running them. In fact, the guy who was my controller, so this is, what is that, 20 years ago easily, still is there running the business, and they pretty much gave it to him to take over after I was gone. So the copier company did not quite figure out the technology thing.
So this is what's the reason why I asked you about that. And the reason why I know anything about that is I used to own a copier company.
No kidding.
Nobody knows that about me. Like the fact that I just said that, people are going to be like, you got it. Like the internet's going to, the internet, all three people that are listening are going to go crazy. My mom's going to be like, I knew you had a copier company. So it was called Sacramento Copiers. And so I remember Icon, and I remember that in the Phoenix area because we do a lot of lead generation too, because we did so well in Sacramento lead generation wise. Long story short, I had this a big company, 130 employees. My copier guy came to me one day and says, hey, I'm thinking about doing my own, breaking off my own to start a copier company. And I was like, yeah, you're an awesome dude. Like, let's do it. And so that's how I got in the copier.
Oh, no kidding.
I got 5 websites. I start doing some lead gen, and the lead generation that came through was just too much for him to handle. And so I'm like, I had these websites. And he wasn't selling a lot of copiers, doing a lot more service stuff. And so I had these lead gen websites that I ended up leasing out to different companies. So I'm really familiar with it. That's why when I saw Icon, I was like, that has to be Icon. That has to be the copier industry.
I can't tell you the last time someone actually asked me that. I mean, you have to be a copier guy to know that. Yeah.
It was when I saw it, I was like, I have to ask him about that. Cause I'm like, it's just such a small world. It was, I'm no longer in the copier industry now, but it was an interesting industry. It was the reason why I liked it is because I went in, I really didn't want to piss people off, but I made some really big copier companies here in Sacramento mad because we were not on the scenes. We were like just one website. And then when I came on and pushed the market to the next level, like literally overnight, within probably a few weeks, let's say, we were number one for a lot of these keywords. And before they weren't doing that. It was more handshake offline type.
Yeah.
And so what is going on here? And so we started pulling this business. And later on, they said, well, we ended up researching you and realizing that you were a 2-person team. And it really made us mad that there were millions and hundreds of millions of dollars, one of the companies here. And so they actually came back to us and said, at this point, after my buddy started doing more service stuff, he's like, we want to lease those websites. And eventually we ended up, selling them. But
leasing's a good, yeah.
It was phenomenal. It was, man, talk about easy money. Because the thing was they couldn't do what we could do. And so we couldn't handle the leads, which is a great problem to have. So anyways, that's the copier thing that was kind of it was interesting to say the least. It was fun because it was kind of an older industry, and just the online thing, they just didn't adapt. And I went in a few months, and they're like, oh my God. Like the VP of this company actually brought me in after I reached out to him and said, hey, we're going to lease these websites. You want? He goes, oh my God, come in tomorrow. He's like, you made it so I couldn't sleep for a few weeks. What are you talking about? He goes, you guys came on the scene, and I didn't came so hard. You guys were everywhere. There was these 5 copier companies that just came out of nowhere. And I realized I finally figured it out that it was you. He goes, you really caused me a lot of stress. And I said, well, I'm here to help you, bud. I said, now you can lease the websites. Now I'm here to help the company. So anyways, it's funny. So anyways, copier industry. So, all right. So
and before we move on, I should say hi to our one listener. Hi,
That's it. She's here. That's the thing. This is what you have to do with podcasts. This is what I realized is that if you start off with 1 person, you go to 2, you double.
Well, there you go.
Right. So, I mean, if you keep the numbers really low, then it really is a percentage thing. I tell people, listen, every week I double in size when it comes to my audience. And they go, that's crazy. I go, no, that is crazy. But that's this is the kind of podcast I run here. It's like, it's very aggressive, and we obviously push extremely hard, and we double numbers. I mean, that's just
the numbers. That's great. Yeah.
That's it. And if your wife listens, if you or your wife or some, or your kid, it's just at this point, we might have 10 people. We might 10 times this thing. I don't even know.
I'll have to remember to tell them. Yeah, but I will. I'll see what I can do. Yeah.
Text. Yeah. Maybe send them a fax to a copy machine or something. That'd be cool. We'll send it over to them and get them to All right. So now that we've talked about something that probably most of the people on the podcast, my wife, who's the only person who's listening, doesn't care about, because she's like, oh, a copier company again. Tell us a little bit about the content marketing side of things, because you have obviously it's like copier stuff, and now how did you get into content marketing? Like, when did that become a transition for you? Where like, how this makes sense to get into this thing called content marketing?
Yeah, it's a great question. When we started Vertical Measures, I was just kind of doing everything. Pay-per-click. You've been around long enough. I don't know if you remember GoTo, but they were the go-to. So I actually was in their offices. They were teaching me how to do pay-per-click before Google even existed.
Yeah. And
so it's just kind of one-man shop, right? You do kind of everything. But I do remember being at a conference, and I don't remember which one it was. It could have been an SMX or one of back in the day. And I remember sitting in one of the rooms, and hundreds and hundreds of people, because those events were pretty darn big back then. And it was about link building. And, the question was asked, how many of you in here hate link building? And, of course, everyone raises their hand. And I'm sitting in the back. And right then it just hit me. I said, well, that's our market. We're going to go solve the pain problem. So I came back to our office, and we might have had 5 people then. And I said, Vertical Measures is going to be a link building company. So for the next 3 years, we really did well, but it was back in those days,
Yeah.
Links. And in 2010, well, actually, I think it was 2009, I formed an association here in Arizona called the Arizona Interactive Marketing Association. And one of the first speakers I wanted to bring in was this guy named Joe Polizzi. So I invited Joe, and he came in, and he was just getting the Content Marketing Institute going, and the content marketing world didn't exist. And he came in, and we spent the day together, had lunch when he did his talk at night and whatever. And by the time he left, I was like, this is now the next phase for Vertical Measures. I just, totally bought it hook, line, and sinker. And I realized there's all the people out there who say, oh, I've been doing content marketing for 20 years and all that. And I said, yeah, I know. But,
Yeah.
So we went through the phase of, so the first thing I thought we should do to kind of rebrand Vertical Measures was to write a book about it. So that was the first book in 2011, came out in 2011 called Accelerate. And it was really an 8-step play-by-play book of how to actually do content marketing online, of course. And so we worked really, really hard at rebranding Vertical Measures that way. And I think we became pretty well known for it. My son and I actually wrote the second one, Content Marketing Works.
Mm-hmm.
And that was based on everything we learned in between, because we made a lot of mistakes as an agency. Back when we were telling people, we'll do a 90-day trial, things like that. And it, of course, those never work. So we came out with the second book. And what you probably don't know is, or maybe you do, but we just published our third one this week. It's all about the customer journey. So
that is awesome. Congrats.
Under our belt.
That's awesome. Where are you selling the book at?
Well, the book will be on Amazon next week. Right now, you can go to our website and download it as a PDF, and it's a 337 full color. It's awesome. I'm really, really, really proud of it. It was a team effort, but it literally follows mapping basically content and optimization and paid media and all that, but to the customer journey. And it's got a great story behind it, and it follows someone through their customer journey, and just real happy with it. Really, really good book, I think.
So you have to be a proud dad of that. That's awesome. How long did it take you to put that together? I mean, I know, trust me, I'm working on a book right now, and I won't tell you how long I've been working on it, but I might have started in the 70s, actually. I think that was
right. Little Led Zeppelin encouraged you and got you going. Yeah, so how long do you think?
The message.
Based on your effort, what do you think?
I don't want to compare it against my effort, because your effort and my effort are different, because you're coming out with yours on Amazon. So I don't want to compare apples to apples here. 3-4 years? 2. Yeah, the idea to start this book and the germ of the idea of what it was going to be about and how we would get it done really started about 2 years. We, in earnest, got 5 different people that work here to kick in and help write chapters maybe a year ago. So we kicked around the idea and kept changing the idea and came up with this whole story concept and all that. Mostly, I guess, in 2017, 2018, we decided to go for it. And it took us from the time we said, we're going to do this and we're going to commit these people and all that, took us about a year. That's awesome. Well, actually, just a little bit over a year, probably. Yeah. Congratulations on that. I know that's no easy feat. I mean, like it is hard. Yeah. It is. Yeah. There's just a lot of moving pieces to it. I think I've said this on every podcast. I think I just talk about the book thing just so people can hear me whine about my book that's never going to come out. But it's going to come out one day. I swear. It'll come out either when I die, they're going to read all 9 pages that I wrote, and they're going to be like, God, he was on to something. That kid, he was on to something. I read it, like all 9 pages. Kind of feel like 10 and 11 was going to be crazy if he ever got it up to writing. So, right. I don't know. Anyways, we'll know here the next year whether I come out with my book or if I just keep talking about it on podcast 958 about how I'm going to come out with this damn book. I'll tell you what, I don't know how I got the first one done, because I think I probably did what you did. I spent 6 months trying to convince myself this was a stupid idea. And then I finally, somebody suggested to me, I don't remember anymore, it's been too many years, but said I should get a ghostwriter. And I didn't know if I wanted a ghostwriter, because I wanted to really, wanted to be mine and my words. But what I did do was I hired a guy to come in, and he spent maybe 2 or 3 days interviewing me.
And that made all the difference in the world. So he interviewed me. He recorded everything. He went away for about a week, or maybe it was a month. I don't remember. He went away and just typed it and then sent it to me. And that's how I got started.
I think what I would do is I would probably need two people. I need one person to interview with me and the other person to kick my ass. I think for the next month of like that continuous, like, I guess at that point, the person already has it. Maybe I don't need the second person to kick my ass. I'm trying to think here. Maybe we'll just do the one person. We'll try with the one person and I'll let you know how it goes. That's actually a phenomenal idea because that's the hard part for me is, I mean, I have started, but it's like, you know, I don't know. It's like getting all that information out, right? I mean, I write all the team writes all the time. We got plenty of content online. Like literally, I could probably take all 5,000 articles are online and make a book. Like have somebody make that into.
Yeah, sure.
Once again, I know there's always an easier way. I don't know why I get that block of like, because I'm the same thing as you. It's like I really want it to be me, right? I want people to I want that personal feeling to it. But then again, the time to do that between everything else that we've got going on, right?
Yeah, exactly. Right.
That's interesting. Okay. I like the interview thing.
And actually, he interviewed other people on our team at the time, too. So I get to a section that maybe I wasn't the subject matter expert on or whatever, and I would say, oh, if you go interview, Bob or whatever, he might be able to flesh this out a little bit better. And so then he put all that together, sent it to me, and then I went through from beginning to end and wrote it, edited it and wrote it in my words. Then we had to hire an editor, once it was actually just about done.
Yeah.
But when you get around to hiring an editor, you're close to the finish line. So.
And that's it. Well, I can smell it. I feel like I'm we're one step closer every time we talk about it, I'll tell you.
Yeah.
But that's good. Like I said, I think if I had $1 for every time I talked about my book, I could just retire. I wouldn't even have to write the book. I mean, that's the kind of cool part. So we just got to keep that moving. I'm really excited about that. So cool. So we know a little bit about vertical measures. It's been around for what? How many years now?
Well, I'd say 11 years. 11 years. Technically 13, but we really, really have been in this business for 11 years.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, and the content marketing side of things is always just so interesting to me. And obviously the name of the podcast is Content That Converts, and content being any type of content. But I like talking with people that are heavy in the content space just because it's so interesting, right? I mean, it's going to continuously evolve. I mean, the same thing for it's probably 7 years ago is when I started writing for my blog. In fact, I told you I teach at UCLA, and I actually have my original blog post up there. And I teach a class called Personal Branding and How to Be an Influencer. But I keep that up there because I read it with the students. And they go, God, your first blog post, that was terrible. And I go, I know, it was. That's my whole point, right? People want to hide from that. And I go, no, the thing is, but I got started. Right. That's the deal is like, that's the hardest part for all of us, right? Like, it's like, we all want to do this, and a book being an example, but you just got to do it. Like I leave this up here so you guys can look at this and laugh and go, God, that's terrible. Yeah. But look where I'm at today compared to now I'm teaching you. Right. So it's just take about that full cycle of that, like where you started off and where you ended up. It's just, it's interesting. But yeah, like I said, the content side of things. So when you guys talk about vertical measures, so what exactly, like in one line, or it can be longer than one line, like what is exactly what you guys do? So is it content? Is it, you talk about backlinks? I mean, what is like, if I was like, hey, what's the perfect client for you? And what do you guys do? How are you guys that perfect fit for them?
I can't do this in one line. I have not answered anything.
I know. Right when I said that, I was like, damn, I just set him up for failure right here on this podcast. This is why nobody listens to my podcast.
So you said your mom did and your wife. So I'm counting on that.
We are really counting on that. Trust me. But I wish that, like I said, between them and my aunt and Aunt Louisa and Auntie Jane. Anyways.
You just grew the audience by 50%.
Yes, I'm telling you, this is what we do.
Right.
I just got a text message. She's like, Auntie Louisa is going to listen. I'm like, no, shut up. Numbers are going crazy right now. I tell you, we're going to have The Rock on next or something.
Wait till you see those conversion rates.
Now they just whispered in my ear. This is crazy. Man.
So vertical measures. So now we're a pretty full service digital marketing agency.
Yeah.
The only thing we really don't do is web development, but we do everything from, content, optimizing it, do link development, and then a whole promotions team. So we do all paid media, lead nurture, CRO, and our ideal client would be someone who allows us to do all of that for them. And we have a handful of those, and some are pretty darn big and well known. And that's really cool. And, where we just have this trusting relationship and can show the metrics that actually conversions are working and all that, and traffic's growing. So that's kind of us. We're 60 full-time employees now, and still one office. We have a remote person on the East Coast near Boston. And that's kind of us that might actually have been one long sentence.
Yeah. So I don't think there was a period. I think that was good. I like that. A little bit of a run on, which is, I'm very common for that. So asking my editors, I'm like, no, that's fine. They're like, that's a whole paragraph. I'm like,
right.
I just didn't want to stop the sentences, kind of just kept going, right? Isn't that what it does? And they're like,
Yeah.
Please don't write your book. Please don't put your book out. So it's awesome. 60 full-time employees, huh?
Yep.
That's crazy, man. I have 32. My whole team's remote. So I had many moons ago, I had a business that it was all at 130 employees, not for content marketing. It was it's another life ago, and that was like, I always told myself, I probably would never have people, not that I don't like having people in house, but I've just done a different business. Before it was just a lot of people. And so now I did everything remote, which there's some value to that. And there's ups and downsides, but that's interesting. 60 people. So you guys got a big old office over there.
Yeah, we have a pretty big office, but I think it's 11,000 square feet, and we're getting pretty full. So
man, that's awesome. Make that
next move. And it's funny because we've gone back and forth on the whole remote. The people, we ask our team, should we start doing remote? Should we and we have remote days. I mean, not everybody shows up here every day and all that, but everybody has a spot. Everybody has a desk. Yeah. But it's tough because we do collaborate a lot. I mean, we have a lot of ad hoc meetings or just, getting the group together. And I know you could do it remotely, but there's just energy. And we're kind of stuck on that right now. So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, and once again, there is something about being belly to belly, right? And having those conversations. I mean, my office, so I have an office here in Sacramento, but it's mainly like where I do my podcast, and I do, I don't really even have clients here. Like, it's all set up for if a client was to come in, I got my whiteboard that we painted on the wall and did all the fun stuff. But it's just interesting. The remote thing just made more sense for me on this business. But I do understand. I mean, there is part of me that misses, talking, having people actually physically here. I mean, I have my office has other people in the offices, and it's like, so, it's not like I'm by myself in this remote area in like Montana or something, but.
Well, so let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
Do you find that you are just working, like there's no beginning and end to your day though, being remote?
What does end mean? I've heard of this word.
Right, there you go. All right, because I'm telling you, because I did work at the house for the first 2 or 3 years. And even when I work from home, remote day or whatever, I find those are my long days. And there's just something about, I go to work, I do this all day, and then I go home and I feel like I have that separation, even though I get back online and, do all that stuff, but there just feels to be that separation. And I'm just wondering how you look at that.
So here's the deal. So my office I'm in right now is an actual office, not a home office. And I just made the transition like a year ago because I was working. I mean, I had the big office a long time ago with 130 employees. That's a whole nother conversation. This time I was like, okay, I'll work from home. And then I was working from home, but once again, there was no end, right? I mean, I'm already potentially a workaholic and maybe potentially a workaholic. So, there was never that end for the most part. Like my old business, I worked probably 20 hours a day, like unhealthy, 30 pounds overweight, like just not doing good. I mean, wasn't doing bad, but just was not healthy. Well, now that I have everybody's remote, and then I have this in here, that's just my office, my office, and, office. And then I have an office at my house, but I'm barely ever in that office. I try to have that separation because it is now my work-life balance is a lot better just because of processes and stuff and, hiring the right people. And, there's just, how it is, man. Yeah. You get things now, you feel a lot more confident about things. And so now I'm at a really great place where, I come into this office and for podcasts and for that kind of stuff, but I have a beautiful setup. I mean, it's everything I want. My wife made it beautiful plants, and people come in and they go, "Oh my God, you're so creative." And I go, no, I just had the credit card. That is all that I had was the credit card. And I said, just don't bang it too hard. If you can just make it look beautiful and just not, I don't want to pay on it for 2 years. So, so my wife did a phenomenal job. So that's kind of my office setting is that. And like I said, every once in a while, I have other companies. Like I have a wholesale real estate company and some other stuff, but that's not here. This is mainly my area I come in the mornings and get some stuff done. I try to get a little workout in and some other stuff. So I guess what I'm saying is in the beginning, it was working way too much, and it's hard to produce that. But it's like anything else, you get those processes in place. Like now like your team, I mean, we produce content at scale. We can produce extremely good content at scale and do backlinks and all that other fun stuff. We try to focus mainly on content, mainly on just writing blog posts, some conversion stuff, obviously driving traffic, backlinks and stuff, or link development or whatever. That's kind of where and then influencer marketing is where we spend. We don't do a lot of PPC or anything like that. We really try to outsource that, but we used to, right? And so it was one of those hey, let's take it all on. And then we got to a point where I'm like, I just don't want to take it all on. It's like, there's certain things that we're really good at. And so that's what we're scaling now is we know that we can produce really great content at scalable levels because that's what most companies have a hard time doing, right? Well, there's a hard time doing a lot of stuff, but content's definitely, or blog post is definitely one of those. And obviously that can break that off into other pieces of content, but that's interesting. Wow. Congratulations. 11 years and 60 employees. That's awesome. So we've already talked about the books a little bit. So I definitely get the idea of that. Like, so what is it like when we talk about like content, right? So there's obviously a lot of different types of content. Like when you have your clients, so what kind of content have you guys seen that does well? And I know it obviously depends on the product and the service and all that, but like what kind of content, like if you guys have content, what kind of content do you guys create that really stands out? Like what's working for your clients right now? Maybe if you can give us maybe an example without giving away the secret sauce, of course.
Yeah, I don't think that, well, kind of my passion since the first book, maybe, so that's 7 or 8 years, is to convince people, and you probably know this really, really well, but to convince people to create content that people are actually searching for. And I just, and actually, of our clients and people I talk to at workshops or on stage or whatever, if they could just leave with that and remember that every single time they create something, they would probably be much further ahead.
Yeah.
Because it drives me crazy to hear or audit sites or do whatever, and they say, "Oh, it just isn't working for us. It just isn't working for us." And then I go to their blog or resource pages or whatever and start looking around the site, and I start looking at just the titles, and I think, well, yeah, because you're trying to be fun or funny, or you're writing what we would call journalistic headlines that no one's actually searching for. And until you're, in my view, and I realize this even sounds extremely old school and maybe even boring, but the bottom line to why you're doing this is to help grow your business, usually. And so if it's not working for you, just try to imagine, would someone search for this title? And if they are, you probably have a good idea for a piece of content. There's a bunch of ways you can research and find out what people are searching for, but solve their problems. I mean, that's what it starts with. And then if you're seeing wild growth and you have great conversion rates and the business is booming and you want to throw some just fun, clever, journalistic stuff out there because you want to get it out of your system or you think it'd be fun or might go viral or whatever, go ahead and do that once in a while. But anyway, that's my answer to that.
And I think there's absolutely something to that, because the funny part is when you say it, it's very basic and should be the number one thing you think about. And I would say most companies don't, right? It's literally, what is the pain point of your client?
Right.
Like, what is the issue, right? You obviously have the solution. You feel you have the solution. So what are the issues? And and you touched on a little bit. I mean, there's Quora, there's all kinds of places that people are asking questions, right? Saying, hey, I'm trying to figure this out. And if there's great, then that either can be a blog post for you. I mean, there's a lot, and there's also websites that people say, hey, are people asking these types of questions?
Yeah.
Or, BuzzSumo, you can go on and see what kind of
content has a feature, right? Yep.
Yeah, I mean, there's some cool stuff for sure. And I think that's a very valid point. I think that, and I don't think I've had anybody else say it on the podcast. We have different conversations, but I think that's really the most important thing is, like, once again, how does your backing out, like creating content, but engineering it for a purpose, right? You're engineering content for, like, you want to answer, your product answers these 10 issues, these 10 problems, right? And assuming that your clients have those problems, then now you should answer those questions, right? Not on just on a Q&A basis, but of like, here, let me help explain this, and this.
Right.
And the other next level to that is going and looking on a SEMrush or something, looking at the content, the keywords, and then help building that out, right? I think the first level is just start writing about it. And then you get better and better and better with the content and keywords and, once again, longer posts and whatever, your call to actions and all the fun stuff. But I think that's important. That's a very, very valid point of the most basic concept is, how are you the solution? Like, why are you why should you be number one?
Right. And if you think about, the customer journey, if the listener will think about their customer journey, it usually starts with awareness. Okay. So they become aware that they have or maybe their boss said, yes, I think it's time for us to go out and get a new CRM or a new, new whatever, new backhoe, whatever, it doesn't matter, right? So whatever the stimulus, whatever the awareness level is, the next thing we do, I think it's 93% of the time, is turn to Google, turn to a search engine. Maybe a percentage of that is Bing, right? And we've all done it. It doesn't matter if you're going off to buy a new pair of golf clubs or, whatever it is, you turn to Google and you start to research. Yeah. And so that's what you have to have in your mind is, okay, when someone's starting their investigation into your product or your service or, whatever it is, what is it they're going to type into Google? And do you have content that can pull them to your site and then keep them on your site, move them to your site and hopefully get to some kind of a conclusion that they're going to do business with you. And sometimes that happens in minutes, right? If you're hitting Amazon, maybe you found it, you buy it, or sometimes like in our business, it's, could be many, many months, but they need to keep viewing you as a great resource and coming back to you.
Yeah.
So that's the whole thing. Think through the journey.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. The journey and I think that's important once again is understanding who you think your perfect client is and what is the journey that they go through. Right.
Right. Right.
And answering those questions all the way along the way and having, it's not always about saying that you guys have to be the perfect solution. Because I know a lot of times just answering some questions, at least getting people on your website to, to go look at other content and stuff like that. So it's like, how are you able to pull those people? And I think is the big question. And content's always a long-term play. People will say, oh, like content marketing, like how long is it going to take? And I'm like, it's not an overnight deal,
Right.
and you have some kind of a crazy site that has a crazy domain authority and it's had that for a long time. But even then it had to have gotten there somehow. It's usually through content or going up through the rankings. So,
Right.
Content is a long-term play. I mean, that's like for us as example, like I don't have, and this is not me bragging. I've said this before on podcasts. This is not me bragging. I don't have any salespeople. Like all my stuff is inbound, which is the part of that's really great. And part of that really sucks. Cause guess what? If I take a day off, then we don't have any sales that day. Right. But and that's a whole nother thing. That's a thing I've got to figure out, but it's awesome because the inbound marketing and it's because of content, right? It's because of the sites that we write for and the type of content we put out. And now my website's indexed extremely well for a lot of keywords. And then we're kind of seeing that all play out now with sponsored posts and some other stuff. So it's been kind of nice to see that journey, but it has been a long-term play. Talk about, I'm sure you've done the same. I mean, I've put hundreds of thousands of dollars into my website.
Oh, yeah.
And everything else. And, it's like, it's a very much a long, like I remember my wife in the beginning, like she's like, oh, that's awesome. Like you're hiring some writers. You're like, so how much business are you getting from all the writing stuff that you're doing? Like from the website. And I'm like, no, my traffic went up. She goes, oh, that's awesome. So how much money? Like I didn't really get the number. You didn't really give me a number. And I'm like, oh, well, here's the thing. It's like kind of a long-term play. And she goes, oh, cool. So yeah, just keep paying for writers. My wife's beautiful and amazing. So I don't, she's listening to this because she's our only listener. I don't want to lose our only listener right now, but
right.
But the thing is for her, it was like, well, why are you continuously doing this? And I'm like, listen, this will pay off. Like there will be a point when it doesn't, and it has. And so now we're at that point, and it's, it does take a while. It is a long-term play, but I think once again, if you put out the right content and people get nervous, oh, but there's so much competition, there's this and that, there's still ways you can still get through it.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. There's gaps everywhere.
Yeah, that's the key. And the cool part about, even though it is more difficult, there's so much software. There's so much software to go and find. Right. Like I just demoed some software where they do exactly that. They show not only with keywords, but like they just do a lot of it. They put a brief together for writing. There was like kind of some automation, some AI stuff that was happening that was really cool. But it's always in, and of course it's how do you find that software and how do you use it? And I guess for you and I, we go jump in and go, oh, this is awesome. And we automatically get it and we start using it. Probably not that doesn't happen for everybody, but it is interesting. I love where the space is going. And I love, like I said, the automation and not all the automation, but more of like the software and stuff that you can get your hands on is kind of cool to kind of see that.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit. So I had a little birdie tell me that you might be, so this is ironic. This is very ironic. I know, I'm glad you're sitting down for this one. So do you like yachts? Somebody, did I hear something about, I know.
My goal is to someday buy a power yacht. And I know there's a whole bunch of sailors, all of the sailors who are watching just cringe.
Huge amount.
But I'm too old to go sailing anymore. I just want to, the model I will probably get it's called a trawler. It's a slow moving cruising yacht. And ideally would like to put it over in San Diego and go over there and give it my credit card as often as possible.
Yeah, you will. Trust me. Don't you worry about that, my friend. You hear San Diego. I'm actually going to be heading down to San Diego in another month. But yeah, that's going to be.
Yeah, I love San Diego. Yeah, we go there all the time. But anyway, so that's my dream. And I think it's been, we go and charter once a year. And so we spend a lot of time on the water, just don't own a boat at the moment.
Yeah.
But it's my big escape from this job.
And that's obviously the reason you moved to Arizona. Cause I was thinking yachts and water. I was thinking Arizona. Like that would be like, if it was like, they're like, hey Shane, like what is the thing where they do, they give you the answer, they give you the question, you have to answer them. I think Arizona, like instantly I thought Arizona, when it rains.
Well, actually strange fact. This is astonishing, but Arizona supposedly has the largest per capita boat ownership of any state in the country. I'm assuming it's because we're all so desperate for water. We go to the lakes all the time. I don't, like I say, I don't own a boat here, but I do know a lot of people who do. And we actually have a lot of lakes.
There are lakes.
People go there in boat. But no, my passion for the water came many, many years after we moved here. It's probably because we moved here.
Yeah.
But yeah, now I want to only get into the water. So
no, I don't blame you. Well, man, as soon as you get that yacht in the water, I would love to come and give you $500 for a few gallons of gas and just maybe go out there with you guys and eat caviar or whatever you guys can do, drink champagne. I'm sure, just live that life.
Yeah, we don't leave the dock.
It's for safety reasons, obviously. Helmet too. Yeah, no, I get it. And so now tell me about, so we have a nickname. What's your nickname?
You know what it is, or you wouldn't have asked.
I know, I'm kind of.
It's Arn Dog, and if you were a really good researcher, you might have figured it out. But it's tied back to the Cleveland Browns. So remember when I was a lad, I was there, and the Browns were still there. Now they're back. And the Dog Pound is their big fan section. So when people knew I grew up in Cleveland, a friend of mine had just Arn Dog was the nickname, and it kind of stuck.
That's awesome. That's awesome. How long have you had that nickname for?
30 some years easily. Yeah.
Man, since you were like 5 years old.
That's awesome. Not in Ohio. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But since I got to Arizona. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. So, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I did say since you were 5, and I did tell you I wasn't good with numbers, so I did disclose that ahead of time. But
in this case, you were right on.
I was right on. Yeah, that sounds about right. No, I appreciate that. Yeah. So we're getting down to the end of this thing. I mean, this is the hard part. We've obviously made the connection, and we've had nothing but a great time. And I'm going to come out and obviously live on your guys' yacht for a little bit. So I'm excited about that invitation with my wife.
Yeah.
My son's in college, and we don't need any money there, so we should be fine there.
Okay.
But I do have a question for this. This has nothing to do with marketing. Actually, probably has nothing to do with 70% of the stuff that we've talked about.
Have we talked about marketing?
No, I mean, it's like two high school friends that just got together. Like, I feel like we didn't even touch on anything that we should have talked about. Like, we didn't ask about family or anything. So if you were to max out a credit card, like if there was one place, I think you were going to go buy a yacht with this credit card that I'm going to not give you, but we're going to this make believe one. If you were going to max out a credit card, like where would you you have, let's say it's a $50,000 limit. Let's say you went all American Express. Of course, that's going to be due at the end of the month. But let's say somebody just gave you one. Let's say it's a gift card or something. Forgot, Auntie died or something, and she gave you a $50,000 gift card. Something. Like where would you go spend it? Like where would be your spot to go?
And did you say I can't spend it on the yacht?
No. Well, we already know you want the yacht. We already know.
Well, not on the yacht, but there's all kinds of things to buy for the yacht.
No, that's true. That all the accessories.
West Marine would be like, a playground there.
That makes sense. That makes total sense.
Buy some flippers and some goggles and maybe a dinghy for the boat and a captain's hat, of course. Yeah.
Man, that's it. And that's 50,000. There's gotta be a few more things. Is it all gold plated? You got 60 employees. Yeah. Hello.
Yeah. Well, then I'll do my teeth, but
you get a grill? Is that what you meant? Or you actually get your teeth?
Well, I'll get my teeth.
Oh yeah. There we go.
So your research is so good. You knew these were not my teeth. Huh? Wow.
Yeah, we talked to your dentist. I go deep. We interview a lot of people. This is almost like, it's like applying for a job at the FBI. Like most people don't know that with this podcast. We want to make both of our people that are listening, we want them to really be intrigued about the people that we interview. So
could I get a job at the FBI based on what you know?
Based on what we know, I think you would be a good candidate. Yeah, you're very cool. You're very elusive. You've, love to be on yachts. Yeah, I know. You're just, it's hard to hold you down. You got like 14 businesses. You're writing books every few weeks. You're very creative. So, and we appreciate that.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm not going to take up too much more of your time. I feel like we've given this audience everything they can handle today. I think we've given they're going to definitely know about you. And the cool part about it, if you ever do apply for the FBI, they can just listen to this podcast because we
That's right. I can short circuit that whole process.
Yeah,
right.
Why would I even interview? Just go to Shane's podcast, and that way I can also gain a listener. So that's kind of cool. Everybody wins.
At this point, that's like 25% growth. I think that's awesome. Seriously.
Well, we're going hot and heavy. It is a Friday, so we just go hard on Friday sometimes. Arnie, it was a pleasure, my friend.
It was great talking to you too.
Congratulations on your success, and please keep in touch.
All right. Same to you, Shane. Thanks.
All right. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.